With the UK a full member of the European Union and a signatory to the Treaty of Rome, all the rest of Europe is obliged to recognise and accept that the UKOTs are a part of the UK. Once the UK is no longer a member state, nor a signatory to the Treaty of Rome, the same obligations do not apply, and we may well lose the support of the rest of Europe.
That we are, in fact, a border state of the European Union, having being located geographically within 5 miles of St. Martin, St. Martin, French and Dutch St. Martin. And obviously that relationship goes beyond economics. It's
problems with our neighbours. Our neighbour is Argentina.
We do get aid from the regional package from the EU. That's about $100 million worth. Are we able to get aid through that package? One of the examples of that is right now there's a program that supports small and medium enterprise development.
It has been considerable over the years, and it has been a blessing to many of our territories, including Anguilla, where the support from the EU in terms of the EDF funding accounted for some 36% of our budget in 2016, capital budget in 2016. So obviously this was critical.
Because of the volcanic crisis. Therefore, any aid we get is critical. In fact, being dependent for 20 years tells you that our development is a bit retarded. And every injection, as I said, especially that from the EU, being a significant percentage of our capital budget, makes a huge difference in 2 ways. Firstly, it allows our government some autonomy, some flexibility in deciding what priorities we need to address, unlike other aid we get. And secondly, because of the amounts we get, we're able to plan over a period of time. As you are aware, with Brexit, we may lose that opportunity. And therefore, as of 2019, we are unaware of who will fill that gap. We're hoping that the UK government, through DFID, who is our main donor, will fill that gap. And in a similar fashion that the EU has. And we're talking about significant sums, as I say, in excess of 20-odd million over the next few years right now for us.
Pitcairn is very small. It's the smallest overseas territory. We're on budgetary aid from the UK. And a significant amount on top of that comes from the European Development Fund and other regional allocations from the European Union. The amount of funding on a per annum basis that comes through the European Development Fund and other areas to us is about 30% of our overall budget, which is very significant. As my honourable friend from Montserrat has just asked the question, who will fill the gap? Will anybody fill the gap? We don't know, and that is a concern.
That part of the market for us is 9% of the total, but to be in high-end restaurants in Paris and Berlin helps set the price of the other 91% around the world, exported mainly to Australasia and to the USA. It's important to us, therefore, if possible, that special access to the EU market can be continued for the future.
One of our most significant or main export is the export of sand and aggregate, which comes from the volcano. Millions of tons from the volcano, easily excavated and then shipped to our neighboring islands, or we use for products on islands which we can export if we develop an island. So therefore, at present, when we export to the French or Dutch territories, we enjoy tariff-free arrangements which help us to be competitive. Therefore, we dearly need to protect that one main export that we have.
Particularly in the case of your location, to what extent are there opportunities to look at affiliating to the EU through your neighbours, through the French or the Dutch, or just a direct link into the EU? Because in many cases it seems to me that the EU funding is actually more valuable than the DFID funding.
Our constitutions in many ways determine our ability and the extent to which we can make a direct approach. For example, under our constitution, the UK government has retained responsibility for external affairs.
We also partake in what the EU call a regional envelope. The current one under EDF 11 is 36 million euros, which we will share with our Polynesian friends, French Polynesia, Wallis and Futuna and New Caledonia. The EU have certainly been pushing us towards that regional cooperation, and rather disappointing that we're just starting to develop this relationship and now suddenly it's probably going to end.
It's very important for us, this EU funding, and if we lose that funding, it must be replaced in some way.
Of concern for us with regard to EU funding, for us it's minimal. We have a small allocations from BEST grants, small allocations from Darwin grants. If they were not to continue, it would not impact us significantly at all. With regard to the freedom of movement, that is a major concern. The ability to hold a UK passport and thereby an EU passport has opened up tremendous opportunities for our people. The opportunities, what they can do, where they can go, the experience they can gain, and what they can then bring back to Bermuda even, is tremendous. If we were to lose that, that would be considered a very serious loss. And one of our major concerns through Brexit is the freedom of movement of our people throughout the European Union. And we would not like to see that lost.
Fish, we could sell all our fish into the United States, but the return is about 50% of that which we get from Europe. So, you know, there are other markets that we can go into, but they're not as valuable or viable for our companies. So we have to be careful.
As far as benefits of Brexit to us, to Montserrat, I think it forces a greater partnership with the UK. And in Montserrat's case, we have not done too well on the issue of having first call with British aid. And you know what the media has done in recent times. I think it forces us now to work in direct partnership to make sure that that changes.
Do we see any benefits of Brexit? Not really at the moment. We haven't been able to identify any benefits. However, you know, it might open up a whole raft of exciting opportunities for all of us. So we've got to keep our eyes open and keep looking.